Good morning and thank you so much for attending to this talk. The aim of this talk is to present our work applying land-based assessment methods to fisheries resorts of the Bay of Biscay and Atlantic Iberian waters, stock status and parameters sensitivity. The land-based methods have been widely applied to estimate biological parameters and to understand the dynamics of marine populations within the category of data-limited stocks. Among the land-based methods applied to data-limited stocks, the International Council for the Exploration of the Sea identified the following as the most appropriate methods to achieve a reliable assessment: the land-based indicator LBI method and the land-based spawning potential ratio LBSPR method. The accuracy of the results of the model depends as much on the precision of the estimates of the life history parameters, which are inputs in these methods, and on the assumptions made in these models as constant mortality, constant recruitment, logistic selectivity, and so on. However, few studies have been performed to test the parameter sensitivity of these land-based methods on stocks with different traits and fishery context. Hence, in this work, we address the following two aims. First, we evaluate the status of 7 different stocks of the Bay of Biscay and Iberian coast ecoregion using the LBI and LBSPR methods and comparing whether or not these results agree with the current available knowledge. With this aim, it was checked if disagreements among both informations can be related to the non-compliance of model assumptions. Our second aim focuses on analyzing the robustness of these methods to the variation of the two most important input parameters, L infinity, Bertalanffy asymptotic average maximum body size, and M over K, which is the ratio of natural mortality to Bertalanffy growth rate. The input data in these methods consist on the annual length, frequency distributions, and the life history parameters, M over K, L infinity, L50, and L95, which are the length at which the probability of having reached maturity are 50 and 95% respectively, and A and B, which are the length-weight relationship parameters. In this study, we focus on the following 7 stocks: European anchovy, 2 Norway lobsters, pouting, pollack, less spotted dogfish, and blackspot seabream. Although both methods, LBI and LBSPR, are well known, we can describe them in two sentences. Length-based indicators, LBI method, provides a set of length-based indicators for analyzing catch landings length composition and classifies the stocks according to conservation, sustainability, yield optimization, and MSY, maximum sustainable yield objectives. On the other hand, the length-based spawning potential ratio, LBSPR method, is a length-based model that assesses stock status by comparing the spawning potential ratio as measured through the length composition data to that expected in an unfished stock. Now that we have in mind a basic idea of LBI and LBSPR methods, we can describe how we analyze the robustness of the methods to the variation of the parameters L infinity and M over K. As you can see, we consider 6 different scenarios. In the first one, reference setting, the values of L infinity and M over K are the ones derived from a literature review or the analysis of other reliable information, whereas in the other settings we underestimate or overestimate one of the two parameters, and in the last setting we consider M over K equal to 1.5 since it is suggested as a value close to the optimal one. After applying each method using each of the parameter configurations, the results of the methods in settings from 2 to 6 are compared with the results provided by the methods in the reference setting, analyzing in this way the effect of underestimation or overestimation. Previously, to discuss the results of our first aim, it is necessary to mention that to evaluate the status of the 7 stocks, we use the values of L infinity and M over K derived from the reference parameter configuration. Furthermore, it is also necessary to define some notation to understand correctly the next slides. CL is the conservation of large individuals. Y is optimal yield, MSY is maximum sustainable yield, and CI is conservation of immature individuals. For LBI, this symbol means that indicator ratios of the corresponding property are above the expected values, whereas this symbol means that the opposite situation happens. Finally, this means that the indicator ratios of the corresponding property are below the expected values, but very close to it. In the case of the LBSPR methods, we use the following notation: MSY above and MSY below, which means that the stock is above or below to the MSY level, and collapse above and collapse close, which means that the stock is above collapse or close to it, respectively. For Nephrops in functional unit 25, previous knowledge of the stock status is that catches decreases by a 98% through the time series, and that now total allowable catch is 0. The LBI and LBSPR results are not consistent with this previous knowledge since their results lead to a more optimistic stock status. On the other hand, for Nephrops in functional unit 26-27, and the healthy stock status derived from LBI and LBSPR results are not consistent with previous knowledge since advised catch is 0 for the next years due to the extremely low biomass of this stock. Disagreements among both informations can be related to the following limitations of LBI and LBSPR methods in these stocks. No constant total mortality or recruitment, life history parameters are uncertainty, and the need of a spatial component. On the other hand, we also apply LBI and LBSPR methods for less spotted dogfish, and we can see that the LBSPR results are not consistent with previous knowledge, whereas the LBI results are consistent with previous knowledge except for the non-correct conservation of immature individuals. One problem in this stock is that the land composition data that not represent juvenile specimens. Okay, for anchovy, previous knowledge of the stock shows a good stock status in terms of conservation and exploitation, whereas the results of LBI and LBSPR methods lead to concluding that MSY level is not attained. On the other hand, blackspot seabream, we can see that the results from LBI and LBSPR methods are more or less consistent with previous knowledge, although the LBI and LBSPR results are a little more optimistic than previous knowledge. Then for pouting, we can see that the LBI results are more or less consistent with previous knowledge, whereas the LBSPR results are not consistent with previous knowledge, although the previous knowledge shows a negative trend in abundant indices. The F/M estimates of the LBSPR methods, a ratio of fishing mortality over natural mortality, are too high to be realistic. One limitation in this stock is that the logistic selectivity assumption is not satisfied. For pollack, we don't have previous knowledge about the stock status, hence we cannot compare with the LBI and LBSPR results, but it is important to mention that we must have care with the results of LBI and LBSPR methods, since logistic selectivity assumption is not satisfied in this stock as well. Maybe Domshay selectivity is a good option in this stock. Our second aim focuses on analyzing the robustness of the methods to the variation, overestimation and underestimation of the parameters M/K and L infinity, and for that we compute the annual average of change ratios defined as the mean of the annual ratios of the values of the indicator in the corresponding setting of overestimation or underestimation over the values of the indicator in the reference setting. From this comparison, we obtain the following conclusions. L infinity is a more important parameter than M/K to obtain an accurate assessment. The indicator most affected by the variation on M/K or L infinity is the proportion of megaspawner, followed by F/M and SPR. The variation on N/K affects similar both LBSPR indicators, whereas the effect of the variation of L infinity is clearly larger for SPR than F/M. And among the LBI indicators, the less robust indicator is the proportion of megaspawners, whereas the most robust indicator corresponds to the MSY property. Final conclusions. The first one is that L infinity, the accuracy of the value of L infinity parameter is very, very important to obtain reliable results using LBI and LBSPR methods. Among the LBI and LBSPR indicators, the least robust indicator corresponds to the LBI method, is the proportion of megaspawners. However, the remaining LBI indicators can be a better option to the LBSPR indicators in particular when L infinity is uncertainty. The value of L infinity is uncertainty. Finally, LBI and LBSPR methods are not recommended for short-living species since they cannot be applied with a shorter time step than years, and also due to high recruitment variability affects the length composition more than in medium or long-living species. Thank you so much for your attention, and please let me know if you have questions.